Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and I'm a US American that's been living and working in Germany these past few years. And that, maybe you see her, is Wilma, our new puppy. She's eating her lunch right now so that she won't be chewing on my hands the whole time I make this video. It's been a very stressful week. Yeah, I just wanted to hop on and share my voting experience with you guys. And I'm really sorry for the noise. I have a neighbor upstairs that is currently, I don't know, banging on a hammer or putting something in the wall, even though it's a national holiday, which is against the rules. And she wasn't nice enough to tell me that she was going to be doing this. But anyways, I'm going to be talking about my experience voting. So I'm a US citizen, which means that I am eligible to vote absentee as an overseas voter in any election for a politician that holds a federal office, meaning that they have an office in DC. So I can vote for anyone, a member of Congress, a senator, president, and things like that. But I can't vote, for example, for a local mayor that only has their seat in Wisconsin, which is the state that I'm from. I'm really excited to talk to you guys because my experience voting has been fraught with peril. I've had a lot of problems and setbacks, and I don't even know really if my ballot is going to get there in time because of those setbacks. But I'm excited to share everything that I know with you guys, and I hope that I can do a video next week as well about the differences in voting and elections and things like that between the United States and Germany. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so now so you can stay up to date with my content that I provide. And while you're at it, give a thumbs up to this video. So what are we going to be talking about today? I want to start with talking a little bit about the state that I'm from, why that exactly matters, because I'm from a very important state in terms of presidential elections. Then I want to talk a little bit about why voting this term is so complicated. So what are the setbacks? What are the barriers to voting in the United States right now? Why are so many people so frustrated? I think that'll be really interesting to discuss. And then finally, I'll talk about my own personal story. So let's get into it. I am, like I said, from a state called Wisconsin. This is something called a swing state, meaning that it's something like a pendulum. It swings back and forth between red Republicans and blue Democrats. So, for example, we voted blue twice for Obama, and then we voted for Trump. I say we, I don't want to include myself in the we. Wisconsin voted for Trump in the last election. And why is this so important? It's because of something called the Electoral College. So one vote does not mean one vote. One vote means that it all gets piled together for the state, and there's 50 states. So your one vote counts within Wisconsin, and then whoever wins Wisconsin gets all of the electoral votes. And the electoral votes are based on population plus 2 senators, so 2 seats as well, 2 extra electoral votes. And what this just means is that the states that are more rural, that have less people, every single vote counts more in those states. If you want to learn more about the Electoral College, I'm not sure I'm doing a great job explaining it. I'll link a video below that explains more about it. It's a very controversial issue. I'm personally not for the Electoral College. I believe that one vote should mean one vote for someone, not that some people that live in rural areas should have more of a say in who becomes president and who doesn't. I think that this is a bit archaic, but that's the way things are. Maybe a little bit more about Wisconsin. It's a very white state. I can put up some statistics about the demographics. Our capital is Madison, Wisconsin. There's a big university there that's quite good. And the most populous city is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And both of those cities are Democratic leaning, but all of the rural towns, like the one that I'm from a very small town of 7,000 people, typically are Republican leaning. The town that I'm from is very Republican, very pro-Trump, and that's why I'm not going back. Another interesting thing about Wisconsin is that there was a recent Supreme Court ruling. So it went first through the state courts and then all the way up to the Supreme Court, which is the most powerful court in all of the United States. And they said that, so they struck down a ruling that Wisconsin had made saying that if you sent in your absentee ballot and there was a postmark from the post office that it had been sent by November 3rd, that it would count, even if it actually arrived at the local office later than that day. So probably, I think 5 or 6 days after that, it would have still counted. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not allowed. And now if your vote's not there by November 3rd, it doesn't count. So that's really disturbing, and that's another reason why I'm very stressed about whether my ballot will get there on time, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That's another recent development from Wisconsin. So why has everyone been complaining about this election? What has exactly made it so complicated? People in the United States are very frustrated right now, and that isn't without reason. So other than the typical barriers such as voter suppression and things like that, those happen every election, and that's unlikely to stop anytime soon. This election has been particularly fraught with problems. Obviously, COVID has brought a lot of issues. Do people feel safe going to the polls or not? And with that has come a lot of changes within the voting system. And the voting system itself is already extremely complicated, and that's because every state has its own rules. So the rules of voting for Wisconsin, for me, might not be the same and are probably not the same for someone voting in California or Nevada or Texas or something like that. For example, I said that my vote, my ballot, absentee ballot, has to be in by November 3rd. And in Pennsylvania, they recently had a ruling that said that their ballots can arrive, as long as it's postmarked by November 3rd, they will still be counted even if they arrive later than that. So you really have to be sure of the rules of the specific state that you live in. Another thing is that some states require for you, it's really stupid, to have an envelope, and that's called your naked ballot. You put your ballot in the envelope, and then you have another envelope that goes over. It's called a secrecy envelope. And not only do you have to sign it, the person that's voting, but another person has to witness you, see you sign your ballot, that you're really you, and then they have to sign it. It's an archaic system, and really it's just meant to make the voting process more difficult than it needs to be. So it's very complicated. It's frustrating. It results in a lot of ballots not counting, their votes not counting at all. Another thing that's made voting this election more complicated is mistrust in the post office. So the United States Post Office, or USPS, has been defunded over the last years, and currently the head of the post office is actually appointed by the president himself, and he's also worked at restructuring their finances, and has it's left a lot of questions open as to whether the post office can handle the capacity and the onslaught of absentee votes that are going to be coming in because of COVID. So I've heard a lot of politicians starting to say, as of this point, you should no longer send your ballot via the USPS. Instead, you could bring your absentee ballot if you're in the area. Obviously, I'm not. But you could bring your absentee ballot to a drop-off box and submit it that way. But it's a little bit sad that we can't trust our own mail system to perform their duties. You know, this is your most basic right, is to vote, and you should be able to do that without having any extreme difficulties doing so. So that's something else that has frustrated a lot of people and made a lot of people insecure about voting this year. And then next we have misinformation. So anyone that's been on Facebook has seen news posts from friends, and you look at the sources, you're like, is this a reliable source or is it not? And obviously, the United States, from the 2016 election and now, has had an ongoing battle with foreign interference, specifically from Russia and Iran. And you just don't know what to trust. And I'm fortunate that I'm someone that really looks into the sources that I'm reading. If someone posts something, I'll always double check it before I believe it as fact. But obviously, there's a lot of people that don't double check their sources and will just believe anything that friends and family members of theirs post. So misinformation is just rampant online. And then finally, misinformation has been coming from the president himself. President Trump likes to spew a lot of hate and particularly a lot of lies. And you can find this anywhere online. Every time he speaks, just blatant misinformation comes out of his mouth. And whatever, 44% of Americans trust him. So that is something that's very disconcerting and just completely disappointing. And I just also wanted to touch upon, I'm not sure if I already said this, but the rules are constantly changing right now because of coronavirus, which makes it very difficult to know how you can exactly vote, what the current state of the election is. It's very confusing. And I have tried to figure it out myself, and I'm still not sure I did everything right. So finally, I wanted to talk about my own voting story. So maybe just a little bit of a timeline. So in the United States, in order to vote, not only do you have to be 18, not only do you have to be a citizen, but you actually have to register to vote. So it's almost like there's 2 steps to the voting process. First, you have to register, which there are also deadlines for, and then you have to actually fill out your ballot and vote. So I registered to vote in March, I think, of this year, of 2020. And that was a complicated process in and of itself. Sent a bunch of documents in, had to wait a month and a half to get approved. So I was like already annoyed with the process. And then I requested my actual ballot for the general election on July 29th. So think about this. July 29th, the election is November 3rd. You would think this would be enough time to figure your crap out to send me my ballot. Turns out it wasn't. So the ballots weren't actually printed until September at my local municipal clerk's office, and my ballot was sent to me on September 16th. So I thought, how long does post typically take to arrive in Germany from the United States? And I thought, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I know the post office is having some issues. 1 week goes by. No ballot. 2 weeks goes by, no ballot. 3 weeks goes by. I'm like, the election is getting pretty close. It's like first week of October, where's my ballot? 4th week goes by, and I'm like, this cannot be happening. This is not right. It has never taken a month for me to get a letter from my family back home. It shouldn't take a month for me to get my ballot. So I called the municipal clerk's office, and no one answered during their office hours. So then I wrote an email to the municipal clerk, and they finally got back to me. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't tell you where your ballot is once it's left the United States. So I couldn't track my ballot, and I tried contacting the DHL here, the Deutsche Post here, and without a tracking number, you can't find anything. And my tracking number I didn't have, so I couldn't find my ballot. And it never arrived, so I have no idea. And then finally, the municipal clerk was like, okay, I'll send you an email ballot. But here's the thing. Once you send in your paper copies from the email, so I had to print everything out, it has to be reconstructed in Wisconsin, whatever that means. So I was like, okay, I'll do that then. At least I have my ballot. So I'm going to show you guys a video clip at the end of me filling it out and everything. But I filled out my ballot, sent it out 2 weeks ago. And now I've just been tracking it. I did the Einschreiben here, so I have a tracking number and I can see where it is. And the last I checked, it was in Milwaukee, so Milwaukee's only a 45-minute drive away from where I live, but I don't have confidence that the post office will be able to deliver it on time. So you guys, I'm sitting at my desk trying to fill out my presidential ballot, right? So after a long time waiting, I've got my instructions, my ballot, my absentee ballot certification, and what would have been the envelope. And I guess I have to glue that to an envelope that I have. So I'm getting started. First, I've had to print everything out. Now I need to fill this out, and I'm already stuck in a place where I don't know if I have to add in my own municipality and ward number because I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to go figure that out right now and then come back to you guys. So you guys, because I am an overseas voter and voting absentee, I'm only able to vote for anyone that is pretty much has a federal seat, meaning that they have a seat in Washington, D.C. So presidents and anyone in Congress, the House of Representatives or the Senates. So I have this one and this one on my ballot, but I don't have any of these actually on my ballot because these are people or representatives that are only within the state or within counties. Here I have my absentee ballot certification. So I filled this out. I've got my signature, the date. Funny thing, if you leave out the 20 and just write 10/19/20 instead of 2020, your ballot will be thrown away. If your signature doesn't match completely to the signature they have on file, your ballot will be thrown away. I don't even know what my signature looked like when I got my driver's license at 16 years old. So I'm hoping that this one matches the one that's on file. I looked here at my passport, at my signature, but this was in 2014. So we'll see. And really stupid, you need to have a witness sign. So because I'm an overseas voter, it doesn't need to be a US citizen, whereas if I'd be doing an absentee ballot in the US, I would have to be a US citizen. But yeah, the rest I don't have to fill out. And this needs to be taped, I guess, to the envelope with my ballot in it. So that's interesting. Anyways, and then after I tape this to this, I have to put it inside of another ballot or another envelope, excuse me. Yeah, so I'm gonna do that and then get back to you guys. So I actually just found now that I'm in Ward 3, so I just took my ballot back out of the envelope and I'm going to put that back in now. Also just reading the instructions, and it says provide your date of birth, and I realized that I had forgotten to fill this out, so I'm glad that I went back to the instructions. It's now taped to my envelope containing my ballot, and now I need to put the envelope with the certificate form attached into another envelope addressed to my clerk, which is, I guess, this. I'm not sure if I have to tape this as well or if I just use this address, but there's no instructions to that, so I don't know why they gave this to me. So there you have it, my official absentee ballot, and I'm going to send this out today before 2 o'clock when the mail picks it up, and it has until the 3rd of November to get there, which I honestly don't know if that's enough time, but we will have to see. Yeah, that's actually all I really had for today. Like I said, if you like my videos, please go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Goodbye. Say bye, Wilma. Say bye.